Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Okay. You got your mic on?
Is it on?
Let's see. Turn it on. Here on that. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Just relax. It's just fun. Let's see here. You might want to
Am,
go to.
am I going to be like talking to you, Joe?
You're filming here, and you're talking to me.
Okay.
And that's
So I don't
where-
need to look at.
You don't need to look at that because
Okay.
I got you on the angle
Okay.
here, which is going to bring out the best part of it.
Now, would you kind of be prompting me or asking
Yeah.
questions, or?
I'm going to ask you questions,
Okay.
and I will say, okay.
Okay.
And we're just taking it easy here.
Okay.
Jim, well, thank you for letting the Talkwell alumni interview you for the distinguished alum and to create this video. Can you tell us about yourself, how it was in Talkwell when you were a little boy growing up, and kind of were you born in Talkwell, or just kind of start talking, take us up from grade school to what was important and things that happened, good teachers, just tell about your life in Talkwell and the high school and your experiences.
Okay. Well, first, Joe, I'm very proud to be a Tonkwell High School alum, and this is a great honor for me, and I'm very appreciative of being recognized as a distinguished alum of Tonkwell High School. I wasn't born in Tonkwell. I was actually born in Henrietta with my twin sister, Jonelle. We were born in 1950. My mother, Gloria, did not know she was pregnant with twins until we arrived, and so one of us was a surprise. Anyway, my parents lived in Henrietta for a couple of years. Both they met working on the newspaper there. My mother was an Oklahoma A&M grad with a degree in English, and Dad graduated from OU with a degree in journalism, and they met working together at the Henrietta Daily Freelance. We were again born in 1950. They moved to Tonkwell in 1951 when they purchased the Tonkwell News. And so for virtually my entire young life, I lived in Tonkwell and had it was just an idyllic place to grow up. I can't imagine a better place to live as a kid and just to grow up. Of course, Jonelle and I were classmates all the way through, and we started at Lincoln, elementary school, and I was a Lincoln Bear for the first 4 years of grade school, and then the family moved across town, and on 4th Street, and of course we changed school districts and ended up in Washington as a 5th grader, so a Washington Redskin as a 5th grader, and of course attended Washington for 2 years, 5th and 6th grade, before moving into junior high and in high school. And before our junior year in high school, I guess it was right after our junior year, we moved again and moved into, Mom and Dad bought the old Baum residence on 3rd Street, and which was great because could walk to school and walk home for lunch every day, which was a treat. And so just had a great experience just going to school. Had great teachers in the high school. I loved.
What teacher in the grade school stands out in your?
Well, my favorite teacher, I had great teachers in grade school. I remember in the 2nd grade at Lincoln, our teacher was, God, I just lost her name, Joe.
Ms. Rhodes?
No,
Vera Kimball?
Vera, no, it was was it Connigan? Mrs. Connigan?
Yeah, Mrs. Connigan.
Mrs.
Would be
Connigan,
Brian Connigan's
mother,
mother,
right,
which is opposite you on this
right.
day.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very honored to be honored with Brian and be, as you say, inducted into as a distinguished alum of Brian Connigan, because he was a great, great man. Mrs. Connigan was our second grade teacher. I remember she loved birds. You know, a lot of your grade school teachers had themes to their classroom, or passions or loves, and Mrs. Connigan's was birds. Another favorite teacher was our fifth grade teacher at Washington, and that was Mrs. Azenbray. And Mrs. Azenbray loved art. She was an artist, and every week she had us creating works of art. And I recall fondly that I was sitting on the back row of Mrs. Azenbray's class right before Thanksgiving, and she drew a picture on the board with colored chalk and asked the class to recreate that picture on a piece of paper, and which I did from my back row seat. But when I handed my paper in, Mrs. Azenbray wondered why, instead of drawing the picture of the Thanksgiving turkey, I drew a fire truck. And it was because I couldn't see the board, as it turns out, and that's when I started wearing glasses. That was kind of the sign that my vision needed correcting, and so I've been wearing glasses ever since. But I think my favorite teacher in grade school was Mrs. Schwab, Mrs. Schwab. Hazel Schwab, sixth grade at Washington. She was a wonderful woman, a wonderful teacher, and really inspired me at that age. It was kind of at that age that she was encouraging us to think about our future and what we wanted to be. And I remember at that age I wanted to be the manager of a state park. My dad had kind of been on what was called the Planning and Resources Board during the governorship of J. Howard Edmondson, and served on what is now called the Parks and Recreation Board. So we visited a lot of state parks as a result of his service, and I wanted to be the manager of a state park. And I remember that was my choice in the sixth grade, Mrs. Schwab's sixth grade class. Loved sports, playing football and basketball, and that moving into junior high, which are typically tough years for young people at that age. You can't drive, and you're growing up, and you discover the fumes, the perfume and car fumes, and but had a good experience in junior high playing. I loved football the most, and but also basketball, and so had fun doing that. Those were kind of difficult years, I think, academically. Just had we were developing other interests, and so those were more difficult years. High school, I have fond memories of high school. Have great friends from high school. Had a great class, the class of '69. Just great people. Had lots of fun. We had fun in athletics. Our teams weren't very good back then, but we just had good teammates, and we had a lot of fun.
Who was your coach, Jim?
Our football coach, my sophomore year, was Lloyd Garner, and I really have a lot of respect for Lloyd. We had a difficult year that year. Many of the seniors quit the team during preseason practices, and they just, as I recall, just didn't like the intensity of the conditioning that the coaches were requiring, and so as a result, 5 or 6 of the seniors just checked it in, and as a result, a lot of us young players had to play, and I didn't start the first game my sophomore year, but I did start the second game. I remember against Cleveland. I was the starting center from the second game on during that season. I weighed 128 pounds. And our line, I think, averaged 135 or 40, 140. We were very, very small. Um, we only won one game that year, and we won at Waukita when Rudy Kane recovered a fumble in the end zone. So it was very much a defensive touchdown, but you would have thought in the locker room we'd won the Super Bowl. I mean, it was just incredibly exciting, and I was really happy for Coach Garner because we were not a good football team, and we were very small, and you know what Coach Miner used to say, we're not very big, but we're slow. We had a tough year, but have fond memories of that experience. And when I was a junior, Coach Miner, who'd come in as the junior high coach the previous year, took over the high school program, and so my coach during the last 2 years of high school was Jim Miner. And we had a better record both those years. I think we were a very scrappy football team. We weren't blessed with a lot of talent or speed or even size, but we played really hard-nosed football and won some games. We lost some games. Newkirk had a really great team that year. My junior year, went to the state championship game, lost to Hobart, but Newkirk was a really good team, and Hominy was always really tough, and Pawnee, but we played everyone tough and played everyone fairly close, and John Humphreys was our quarterback that year. John was a good player, and my good friend Steve McCarter was one of the ends. Larry Swords was a tackle. Benny Humphreys was a halfback. We had good guys, and we loved the game. We loved playing hard, and that was a great experience. In basketball, we also took our lumps. Dick Wagner was our basketball coach those 2 years, and we had fun, but again, we weren't blessed with much height or talent or quickness, and but we have fond memories of those experiences. I was in student council in high school, really enjoyed that. I was the president of the student council my senior year, and that was kind of an experience, a learning experience for me, and in serving in that type of role and governance, and something that I've really enjoyed as an adult in my business life, being involved in civic affairs and community engagements and boards and nonprofit work, which is a big part of my life. I really enjoy that part, and that really kind of started in high school.
Who was your sponsor at the
student council?
Yes.
It was Lina Bell Lucas, and Lina Bell was my math teacher, geometry. I was not a good math student, which is why I ended up in journalism school. And Lina Bell I wasn't the best student in her class, but to her credit, she liked me anyway, and she really kind of took me under her wing when I was the student council president that year, and really I learned a lot from her. She was very supportive and was a good guide for me, and I kind of learned from that experience that I'm not the smartest guy around, but if I work hard, sometimes that can level the field, so to speak. And Lina Bell really, I think she recognized that in me, and she was just complimentary in recognizing that I put in the extra effort, realizing that that's what I needed to do to be successful, and I think that was a really important lesson in my life.
You think you learned that in high school?
I did. I did. I recall, her being a big influence in that way in my life. I also, I started working at a young age. My first job was throwing newspapers for my dad, and learned, some responsibility, and throwing the paper. The newspaper was twice a week then, Monday and Thursday, and also going out and collecting, and usually on Saturdays. I then, in junior high, probably 7th or 8th grade, Hugh McIntyre hired me, and Hubert, and that was a great experience for me. I worked at Dorset's for Pete and Hubert for Mac, probably 7th or 8th grade through even when I was in junior college, and I learned how to work, and learned that it was important to work hard, and Mac instilled that in me. I owe him so much for being a true mentor in my life, and just inspiring me to work hard, and to do things the right way, and don't take shortcuts. Do it right. And I so value that experience, that 5 or 6 years that I worked at the grocery store, and just learned a good work ethic, and learned responsibility, and I really appreciated
In other words, having a job along with your family background helped you develop your character of
right.
where you are
It did.
today.
It did, and all through that period, I was working at the newspaper, and writing in the summer, writing sports stories and doing the journalism thing, and working with my parents, and that was important. That's when I really discovered that I liked journalism, that I liked to write. I liked using the camera. I remember in junior high, I took photos at the high school basketball games, positioned under the goal, and just firing away. And I learned that I kind of liked that little bit of recognition you get from a byline, or photo by Jim Langdon, or this story by Jim Langdon. And so I did that throughout high school, and then went to Northern. And one of the reasons I wanted to go to Northern was the opportunity to really further my journalism education. My freshman year, I was the advertising manager on the Maverick, the student newspaper. Went out and sold ads in Tonkawa and Ponca City, and beat the streets, and that was a great learning experience for me. And then my sophomore year, I was editor of the paper, so I had both the advertising side and the editorial side. The journalism advisor and teacher at Northern those 2 years was Peggy Whitt, and Peggy was just a great influence. She inspired me to a new level. I really developed a love for journalism, through Peggy and her teaching and her kindness, and just taking me under her wing was a real blessing for me. And I so appreciate the interest that she took in me at that age, and it really sparked me in my love of journalism, in print journalism in particular. And I discovered then that I really wanted to be a journalist, or a newspaper man in my life, and knew at a very young age in college what I wanted my major to be. I had a lot of friends in college who didn't discover their major at a young age in college, and they were stressed by that, and I never experienced that, because I always knew that this is what I want to do, and of course it started with my parents and that experience, who were great mentors, and really just gave me every opportunity to do lots of things, and not only in journalism but in my life. And then Peggy, that was really my first journalism experience beyond my parents, and to have someone like her inspire me to a new level was very exciting for me. I also loved Boy Scouts when I was a kid, and I was in the Boy Scout troop, Troop 26. Dick McKenzie was the scoutmaster, and Dick was a great man. I loved Boy Scouting. Worked my way up to the Eagle badge, and Was fortunate enough to go. I worked at our scout camp one summer when I was 14 or 15. Went to a World Jamboree. I think the summer after my sophomore year, and this is typical of Tonkawa. An experience like that costs money, and I still in my scrapbook that my mother so diligently kept for me. Fortunately, there are letters in there. Not only just of congratulations that I was going to this jamboree, but people in Tonkawa contributed money to make it possible for me to go. I remember Gilbert Humphreys and Bob and Phyllis Asbury and others who made it possible for me to have that experience, and it was just a great experience, for me. I think that's what's so special about Tonkawa. I mean, it was such a close-knit community. People supported one another. Your dad, Joe, used to take me to the farm. He'd scoop me up in the pickup truck when I was in sixth grade, sixth grade, because he lived across the alley. Your mom and dad lived across the alley from us, and just little things like that you don't think have an impact on a kid, but they really do. You show an interest in a person, and I know your dad along the way would teach me things, and it was great, and everything that I owe, in my life, I just owe to other people, and I mentioned to you earlier that when I think that, hey, I've been fortunate to have some success in life, and when I start thinking I hit a triple, I stop and remember that I was born on third base. It's who my parents were, and where I grew up, and the people who influenced me and inspired me are the reasons why I'm who I am. And whatever success that I've enjoyed in life, I owe to other people. And like, Mac, who taught me how to work, and my parents, who taught me the lessons in life that have been so valuable to me. And so I just feel incredibly fortunate in my life that I have those people who took an interest and who loved me and inspired me, and totally unconditionally. And in Tonkawa, it was a town at that time that just embraced people, and people cared about one another, and we all knew each other, and it was very, very special. Fortunately, I went from Northern on to OU. I through my dad, who started taking me to OU football games, and I think when I was a fifth grader, he had season tickets, and I'd go to a game or two every season. I developed a love of OU football, and again, always knew where I wanted to go to college. After Northern, there was no question where I was going. My twin sister, Jonelle, was at OSU. All my sisters went to OSU. Judy went to OCU, but I followed Dad to OU. Always knew I would do that, and had a great experience there. Worked on the student newspaper. My junior year, pledged a fraternity, had a lot of great friends. Steve McCarter was a member of my fraternity, and so we were together at OU, had a great time. The summer after my junior year, I interned at the Norman Transcript, worked there that summer. They let me stay on my senior year at OU, and so I worked at the daily newspaper in Norman for my senior year, which was a great experience. And then they just kept me on after I graduated, so I stayed there until 1977. And at that time, I was kind of tired of being pigeonholed and just selling advertising. Although I liked that, I was interested in writing and photography and advertising. And I thought, where can I do it all? Where can I experience doing lots of different things? And it just was apparent to me that was working on a newspaper the size of the Tonkawa News. And at the same time, I thought I will probably regret it if I don't work with my parents in journalism as an adult, that I really wanted that experience. And so I went back to Tonkawa in 1977 and joined my mother and father in the newspaper business there, and worked there for 3 years, and those were 3 great years. They let me do lots of things and started a little farm publication while I was there and had fun doing that, and met lots of great people, and it really gave me a lot of confidence in my ability to do things. And starting that little farm publication, which we did once a month as a part of the Tonkawa News, gave me the confidence to start the publication in Tulsa, 12 years later. And I've thought about this over the years, that without that experience, starting that little farm publication in Tonkawa that served Grant and Kay and Noble counties, I would not have had the confidence to start my business, to start a publication in Tulsa. And so again, it's how things connect and link, and you don't think about it at the time how what you were doing then would help you do something in the future, or just contribute to a major part of your life. But it truly did. And so in 1980, I was invited to come back to OU and teach at OU for a year, to fill in for a professor on sabbatical leave, and I did that, and then kind of fast forward, worked for the State Newspaper Association in Oklahoma City. I married my wife Julie at the time. We were in Oklahoma City. Went to New York City for a couple of years, working for the National Newspaper Association, and then moved to Tulsa. Julie at the time was practicing law, and our first child, who was born in New York, was old enough that Julie was ready to resume her career in law, and since she had primarily been an oil and gas attorney, it just made sense to come back to Oklahoma. So we came to Tulsa, where her parents lived. She had graduated from high school here, and she immediately was hired by one of the best law firms in Tulsa. And I joined a friend of mine from OU that I'd worked with at the student newspaper and in a little advertising agency business, and Langdon Publishing evolved out of that in 1986. So we started our flagship magazine, Tulsa People, in 1986, and we're celebrating our 26th year of business this year, and it's been great. I feel so fortunate that I've been able to practice the craft of journalism my entire life, and do something that you truly enjoy, and say, find something you like, and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's really been the way it's been for me. I love this business, and always have. It's changing. It's challenging, just like any business, but I truly enjoy what I do, and feel very blessed that I've been able to have a career that I love so much, and that brings me so much happiness. And it's been great.
Thank you, Jim. It's wonderful. I'd like to ask you a couple stories. That's perfect from here, but let me ask you. So what do you think of the things that what was the life-changing, if you could pinpoint something? I know when you went through your narrative here, what are one or two things that could stand out really was life-changing for you? Because we've all had those changing experiences, maybe 3s and 4s or whatever. What would you identify that with in your career? And what opportunity came that you could have gone this way, but you went ahead and seized it? Because your work habits would dictate that, because you've been working all your life.
Yeah. I really think one of those was, that's a tough question. One of those was working at Dorset's, as a kid in junior high, and I was, fortunate. My parents and Hubert and Mary Lou Lefty, as my dad affectionately called her. We're friends in the Methodist Church, and I didn't mention how important the Methodist Church was in my life. My grandfather was a Methodist minister in California, my father's father, and my parents, of course, were devout Christians. The Methodist Church in Tonka was so important in their lives and in our lives as the children. And so I grew up in the Methodist Church. That was obviously a great experience for me, and all the people in the church who inspired me and educated me. I think of people like Tedrow Coulter and Dr. M.L. Bergston, who was a Sunday school teacher of mine. Reverend Moling, who was a great minister of the church, and when I was in high school and didn't seem that much older than I was at that time, it was just a great leader and really inspired me. And so the church was great important in my life. But working at the grocery store, I think in junior high and up through high school, just taught me the importance of doing a good job and working hard. And not that I've been 100% in that in my life, for sure, but I learned the lesson of really engaging yourself in what you're doing and doing it at the best of your ability. And so that was a great lesson, for me. My parents were just incredible people, and just gave me every opportunity. Friend, not really a friend, but a person here in Tulsa is named George Kaiser, who is an incredibly philanthropic man. I think George is the wealthiest man in Oklahoma. He's one of 2 or 3 billionaires in Oklahoma. And I like a story that he tells about himself, that he feels that everything that he's accomplished in his life has been through dumb luck. And it was all the result of the ovarian lottery, that it was who his parents were and the family that he was born into was the most important factor in whatever success that he's enjoyed. And I feel the same way. When I heard him say that, it really touched me, because it was just through the a sheer blessing that I have the parents that I do, and that I had the upbringing that I had, and I lived where I lived, and all of the influences and inspiration and education and people who took an interest in me that have made the difference in my life. And I don't know that I've answered your question very well, Joe, but I've said lots of stuff.
Where do you think your business is going? Tell us a little bit about your publication.
We're in a magazine publishing business. I always thought I would be a newspaper man my entire life. And I love newspapers, and I love that business. There was a fork in the road at some point after we moved to Tulsa, that my life just turned towards magazines. And our publication, when it started, was, although it wasn't a weekly, it was a monthly, but it was in a newspaper format, so it was kind of a newspaper product. But over the years, we've evolved it, and it became a true magazine. And it was really more of a magazine in terms of frequency and content from the start, but it looked like a newspaper. But it evolved, and now of course it's a magazine. We're in what we call the city and regional magazine genre. It's a city magazine, and it's the city magazine of Tulsa. And I've been fortunate that I've had great teams of people over the years who've worked hard on the magazine and made it what it is. And we've won, this year the magazine won 23 awards, and I think we're Over our 26 years, we've received 123 awards for journalism excellence, which I'm very proud of. It speaks more to the people that have done that, and I've been fortunate to have great people. And every business, really centers on people, and the success of the business is all about the people who are engaged in that business. And I've had great people, very talented people. Magazine business is good, but it's changing as the media usage habits of people change, and people become less dependent on traditional forms of media because of the internet and all the digital products and channels, platforms that are out there today for instantaneous communication. It's really put a lot of pressure on newspapers and magazines and radio and television. I feel fortunate that magazines are still in a very good place because the product is different. It's very portable. Because most magazines are monthly, people spend more time with them. I can't start my day without reading the Tulsa World and reading the sports section, but I spend about 20 minutes with it and then it's gone. We know from our research that people keep a copy of our magazine, Tulsa People, the entire month. And we know how people read magazines. They read an article, they put it down, they come back to it the next day or in 2 days. It's on the coffee table or the night table, in their car, wherever. And so it's very portable and it's lasting. And those are two very important characteristics today. That the message has a life, the advertising has a life. It's not fleeting like most media messages, and for that reason, there's more value on it compared to other media. And so magazines, I think, are still strong, will remain strong. That doesn't mean that we're not having to do other things. I mean, our magazine is online. With our September issue, we're launching an app where people can read the magazine on the iPad or the iPhone. And so we have opportunities to expand our readership, digitally, that we can't do. We print so many copies of the magazine, and once they're out there and people pick them up, they're gone. But because the magazine is digitized and is online and in the App Store, it's accessible to people 24/7 all the time. So we feel good about that part of our future. I think print in magazines will stay strong. I'm worried about newspapers. Newspapers are an important part of our democracy. They have to. Who else is going to cover City Hall, state government, or national government? And freedom of the press, and it's just an important part of our freedom. And I worry that as things change in journalism and things become less balanced, reporting becomes more skewed, becomes more political, and people are less able to discern the difference, then that's a very real danger in our democracy and in our society, and a detriment to our freedom as we know and love it.
What would you say to advise our young people going through school and in their life? What would you advise them to do?
Find your passion. I was fortunate that I was passionate about journalism at a young age. But whenever I meet with young people, including my 2 children, I just encourage them to follow their passion, develop an interest in something that brings you happiness. And we know that we all have to work, and so it's important to do something you enjoy. And the old saying, if you find something you like, you'll never work a day in your life, is really true. And whatever that is, but find something you enjoy, something you can really engage in and give of yourself to, and it will bring you so much happiness. It will bring you so many rewards. Maybe not financial rewards, but just the reward of having a meaningful, purposeful life that makes you happy. And it, you know, we all have to be productive. We all have to earn a living and provide for ourselves and our families. And so to me, it's important to find something that you truly love and do it. And the discovering process is what can be difficult for a lot of young people. But I just encourage people to keep searching and keep trying to find that thing that you really love, that you're really passionate about. And if you do, then it'll make your life very happy. I've also been fortunate. My wife Julie is my biggest fan, my biggest supporter. We work together. My mom and dad work together in their business, and you know, a lot of people have said along the way. I remember with mom and dad, it must be difficult working together, and I'm blessed with a wife who you know, who's just incredible. We just have a great partnership and a relationship in every way. We're best friends, and it's really easy to work together with someone that you respect so much, and you know that they're going to give you their honest opinion on things, and just be totally supportive and unconditionally support and love you, even though you have lots of crazy ideas. And I also want to say, Joe, that my you know, I have great sisters. I've unfortunately lost my youngest sister, Jennifer, to cancer about 10 years ago. But I have, you know, 3 sisters. My twin sister, Jonelle, who is, you know, next to my wife, Julie, is my best friend in life. And I so appreciate her and admire and love her. My sister, Judy, the next youngest, is, Jonelle's not youngest. She's actually 10 minutes older than I am. She's my older sister. But Judy and I work together at Langdon Publishing, and she does a great job. She has the journalism thing too, and worked at the Tonopah News for many years, and now works in Langdon Publishing. She's one of our editors here, and so I enjoy, you know, working with her. And then Janet lives in Edmond with her husband Charlie Puckett and family. And but my sisters have all been just so important in my life, and just been my biggest cheerleaders, so to speak, and we all need that. And I've had great ones.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Jim, do you have anything else you'd like to say? You've pretty well covered everything that is going to make a great video. I mean, it's going to be
well,
great.
I've kind of rattled on, Joe,
No.
and I could rattle on
Our filmmaker,
much longer.
he's good, so we're excited about that.
I hope I, just talking with you here, I hope I haven't skipped over something that's important. I had to get the Methodist Church in there. I'm sorry I didn't mention that during my upbringing years.
Well, your scouting, your parents, your school, your teachers, your high school, your coach, probably what you showed me and explained to me, and is that your work, developing good work habits, is what we need to be mentoring our children and helping.
I think that and just being around people
Positive.
who were positive and took an interest in that I just recognized as really strong, upstanding people that I respected, and I just learned from all of those people. I mentioned Ted Rowe, and I mentioned, of course, Mac, Gilbert Humphreys. Trying to think of, Dick McKenzie, of course. There were just lots of, Glenn Strange, Lewis McCarter, just people that were, that I viewed as just successful in life, not just in business, but in their family life, in their church life, and I just learned to value those traits in those people, and that they kind of taught me, kind of how to live, and kind of the path that one needed to follow to really get the most out of this life. And a lot, as you and I know, I mean, it's a lot about work, and working hard, and
understand what that means and have a passion for it.
have a passion, just learning how to make things go, and trying to, and if you're engaged in your passion, then it's fun. It makes you happy.
Jim, the Tonopah Alumni wants to thank you for this time to be with you and to share your experiences. And we thank you, and we'll be looking for you on September the 28th and 9th.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Boomer
you.
Sooner.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
I hope it's okay, Joe. I'm just,
No,
just kind of-
no, that's perfect.
It's
It's
kind
no.
My mouth was just kind of running there.